Hey guys, what's up? It's your man Pete, and back with another video, and I've got a pretty important update here as the Ford government announced a new increase or hike in the foreign buyers tax for all of Ontario. And this comes right before the next political election campaign, so obviously they're trying to tackle the housing affordability issues and of course to get some brownie points for the next election. But this might have a pretty significant impact on the market, even if it's just perceptually and optically speaking. So if you're a seller in the next couple of months, this is probably not going to be good news for you, because this comes right after the Bank of Canada raised the overnight rate 25 basis points, and now there's a possible threat that they might increase it by 50 basis points to try to tackle inflation in general for the whole economy. So we'll get into what I think is going to happen with the GTA and the Toronto housing market right after this. As we start getting into full swing of the spring housing market here, it really feels like we're starting to get a lot of bad news. I mean, it's good for home buyers, but it's not really good for home sellers, and it's not really good for deals and transactions to happen, because you've got buyers sitting on the sidelines thinking, things might actually get better, prices might actually come down. And then you've got sellers who are stuck in the market thinking that they can possibly get the same prices that they could earlier in the year when inventory was really tight. This happens every single year, so this is nothing new to me. But with now potential new threats or talks about the Bank of Canada raising interest rates another 50 basis points, that sounds like a pretty scary number that could potentially put the economy into a recession. It'll definitely do some damage in the housing market, that's for sure. And then, as always the case is, these policymakers and people who consider interest rates and the economy, usually they're a step late, right? They always institute these things after the action has already happened. It's kind of like when you order food for a party and then it comes when all your guests are really about to leave already. But hey, this is Toronto and GTA real estate, and we just got to get used to it, and we got to roll with it. And of course, we got to work with the professionals to see what they think and help you manage and navigate through all this information and noise. However, if you're a buyer this year in 2022, I think there's a few good opportune times, this being one of them right now, where it's actually good for you, right? There's an opportunity for you to not have to get into as intense of bidding wars. We should never assume that there isn't going to be any bidding wars, especially if you're going for really nice properties in coveted neighborhoods. Those properties are rare to begin with, so expect a lot of action and expect a lot of attention on really nice property. But it's definitely a great time now to actually be out there researching, possibly deal hunting. You definitely should be looking around. You definitely should be talking to the pros to figure out whether this is a good time to get into the market. Potentially, I think it could be. And so this is fresh off the internet presses, right? The PC government of Ontario have now officially increased its foreign tax, which has actually been around in British Columbia and Vancouver for a while now, but now it's officially province-wide. Originally, it was 15%, and it only applied to the Greater Golden Horseshoe, which includes Toronto and sort of the surrounding areas of Toronto. So that's why we had people actually going out to places like London to purchase property, because it didn't apply there. But then now that it's province-wide and we see prices going up everywhere, not just in Toronto and the GTA, government is starting to think that we need to start being a little bit more aggressive on policy and making it more difficult, and definitely putting their foot down on foreign speculation property investing. But that doesn't stop the local investors, right? So basically what that means is non-residents like international students, people with just work permits, they can't buy property now without paying for this tax. Originally, if you were an international student, let's say you came over and you were looking to study at least 4 years here at an accredited university, say for example at the University of Toronto, then you could have potentially avoided this tax if it was your principal residence. But now that's changed. Now there's an immediate 20% tax if you're not a citizen or a permanent resident here in Canada. And then of course now the tax not only just applies to Toronto and the GTA region, but even in places like Thunder Bay or Cornwall. But please make sure you consult a professional, either your accountant or your lawyer, to figure out whether the tax applies to your specific situation. And in my line of work, it's always a little bit conflicting for me, right? Because I work on both sides of the transaction. Sometimes I work with sellers, sometimes I work with buyers, sometimes I work with them both in the same transaction, to sort of help them navigate their lives and plan their finances a little bit better so that they can make the right move for their housing needs. And it's just really interesting to see how the dynamics can change just based on announcements and policy decisions, legislation, literally change in a matter of weeks. And so for those of you who really like investing in the stock markets, You guys probably see these ups and downs all the time. Honestly, I'm not really sure how you guys manage and weather through those types of things. For me, I think I would go nuts if I had to look at my stock prices every single day in my portfolio. Real estate's just better for me. But at the end of the day, just like any other market, the housing market is just the same. It reacts to decisions made by politicians, the people in power. And of course, it runs rampantly on people's speculation or what they think is going to happen in the market. Typically, it's a little bit more delayed and the reactions are a bit slower in real estate, but we find that it is getting faster every single year. But then now on the flip side, let's look at the positives, right guys? So if you're a home buyer or you're a potential investor that wants to get in the game, this might be a very interesting time and an opportune moment for you. That's why you should contact us now so we can help you find a great deal. That's what we specialize in. That's what we're really, really good at. But overall, these changes are actually great for the market. It's great for local people here so that they can actually afford to buy their own property so that, there's the possibility of owning your own home instead of being a renter, even though you're a Canadian citizen. So if we don't have the ability to increase the housing stock and increase the supply, then of course this is what we have to do. They have to come up with solutions. They have to come up with ways to at least temper some of that demand a little bit. So, before when things were nuts, we're talking 20 offers at a property. Now, after the 25 basis point increase, maybe we're down to about 10 offers. And then now possibly with the new foreign tax, whether it actually has any real impact on the market or not, from an optics and a perception point of view, that might actually lower that down to 5 offers or maybe even 3 offers at a property. And so, to me personally, the timing could be a little bit better because we're just starting to get into the spring market, right? Because in the spring market, you automatically already see more supply. We're seeing sort of things get back to normal from the pandemic, obviously through no fault of the government and their announcements and their timing. I don't know if it was timed perfectly or not, or whether it's anybody's fault. But it just kind of feels like the bad news for the housing market is just going to keep piling on and piling on and piling on, where you're going to get a lot of people really, really backing away from the market. And then historically speaking, definitely does come back at some point during the year. We just don't know when. Is it going to be in the spring? Is it going to be in summer? Is it going to be in the fall? Because again, Toronto real estate never really stays down for very long. And that window of opportunity to actually buy something at a decent deal doesn't last very long at all. And then the question just becomes, how long can people stay out of the market until they have to jump back in and react again? Because historically, what we see from Toronto and the GTA is that sellers typically are not that desperate to sell. Many of them are testing the market, trying to get rid of a tenant and seeing if they can sell for maximum value. This is for the investors out there. Some of them just think, I'm going to rent out the property until market conditions improve and then I'll put it back out on the market again. And so historically in the past, what we've seen is that even when there's a lot of supply or a decent amount of supply, typically it doesn't stay up there for very long. Once some buyers start jumping into the market and, sellers are strong in holding their prices, we're going to get back into that bidding situation and in that intense frenzy again. I'm sure it will come back again at some point this year. Maybe not quite like January, February, but just like as the sun comes up every day, the Toronto real estate market starts going back up again. And so that's kind of the major reason why the Toronto real estate market has gone up for decades now, because again, sellers are holding their prices. They're not in a hurry to really, really get rid of their properties. You might find a few that are, and so this is kind of the opportunity to try to snag yourself a deal if you can. At least you should be researching, at least you should be figuring out what's going on, at least you should be talking with a professional. I can name at least one here at our brokerage, and of course his name starts with a P, because of course you definitely don't want to miss that boat and you don't want to come to the party late. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't be scared. Contact information is in the description box below and also at the end of the video, because if you're ready to go deal hunting, we're ready to go deal hunting, because that's when it's the funnest time to actually buy property here in Toronto and the GTA. And if you're a savvy investor out there and you're into houses, you definitely want to give us a shout as well here at Selling Toronto. We'll make sure you make a ton of money on your next property. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, feel free to leave a comment, definitely positive comments, and let's see how these next couple of weeks shake out. We'll talk to you guys soon in the next one, and bye for now.